Oh.
Why is that disappointing?
Because twice now, with regards to Raven and movies and the movie selection, I have thought we were steering in the direction of Point Break, and at the last second, we always veer off in a different direction.
Val Kilmer is not in Point Break.
Oh, no, he's not. You're right. Oh, dear.
Sit back, it's time to get groovy. Question, do you remember that movie?
Welcome back to Remember That Movie. I am the third Alejandro Rosa on IMDb.
And I am Steve Johnston, and I am not on IMDb.
And we're back with another episode and another movie. If this is your first time listening or watching, what we do here is we look at the movies of the past with the eyes of today. Each episode, one of us picks a film, does research on it, and the other one just experiences the movie, and then we talk about it. And that's the podcast. So this time, it was you, Steve, who decided what we would watch, so tell us about it.
For this episode, I decided that we should watch 1997's The Saint, starring Val Kilmer, Elisabeth Shue, and Rade Šerbedžija. Now, I picked this one because I remembered liking it. I remember seeing this in the theaters when it came out because my friends and I were intrigued by the commercials. It seemed to be along the lines of a James Bond, but not James Bond, The Saint. I knew of The Saint because I had heard of the 1960s British television program of the same name, starring a young Roger Moore. This is from a weird time that I think the youngsters of today might not appreciate, because I knew that there was a television serial from the 1960s, but I couldn't watch it because this was before streaming. Cable companies weren't putting out old shows like this for people to watch if you happened to have a subscription. The only place you could really get a show like that is if you went to a video store and bought a boxed set, if someone had actually brought out a boxed set. But then you had a risk that you had to deal with because you were looking at spending $60 on a season of a TV show you might not like. So, I knew of The Saint. My friends went with me. We watched, and we very much enjoyed it. That was my history with the movie. Alejandro, what was yours? Did you go out and see this in theaters like I did?
So this was 1997, is that right?
97, yes. April of 97.
I probably absolutely did see this in theaters. I remember this film. I remember watching it. I knew exactly what it was when you said it. And I remembered like bits and pieces of it. This was one of those movies that as I watched it, and I have not watched it probably since, well, I might have watched it on VHS or DVD, maybe VHS, but that would have been years ago since I can't remember the last time I had access to a VHS player. So let's just say it's been a while, but I remembered bits and pieces of it. And as I watched it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That thing and that thing. I don't remember anything other than the fact that it was Val Kilmer and it was the 90s and Val Kilmer was awesome. He was going to do a cool action film where he put on costumes. I'm there.
Now, I have to admit, part of my picking this movie this week was because I thought it was going to be easy on the research side. Because I thought, oh, this is a film adaptation of a TV show. That's not quite the case, because the character of the Saint was actually introduced in a novel back in 1928 by British Chinese author Leslie Charteris, who ended up writing like a couple dozen books about this character between 1928 up until like the 1970s. This is actually the 10th adaptation on film of this character. There were 9 films made between 1939 and 1954. You've got the British television series in the 60s starring Roger Moore, which I say arguably is the most famous adaptation out of all of them. You had radio dramas, at least one of which starred Vincent Price as Simon Templar. And then you had, I think, like a handful of made-for-TV movies that came out in like Canada and a couple other places. So this character has been around, which I found very surprising.
I had no idea. No idea.
Paramount had gotten the rights and was going to release a movie version, and it was going to be the start of a franchise. They were hoping to make kind of like James Bond, put out a movie every few years about The Saint. They originally had producer Robert Evans of The Godfather fame on board. It was going to be written by Academy and BAFTA award-winning writer Steven Zaillian, and it was going to be directed by Academy, BAFTA, Emmy, and Golden Globe award-winning Sidney Pollack. None of that came to fruition. Robert Evans left the project, but you'll notice that his name is still in the credits, and that was because of a contractual obligation. So he didn't work on the film, really, or not the end product, but he gets his name on it. They brought on David Brown, who produced Jaws and Driving Miss Daisy, and they brought in Robert S. Baker to executive produce, and his name is significant just because he was the producer of the original Saint TV series from the 60s. So there was a bit of continuity, a bit of service for the fans there. The script itself was rewritten by Jonathan Hensley, who wrote Die Hard with a Vengeance. And then some assistance was given by Wesley Strick, who wrote Arachnophobia and Batman Returns. And he was brought on after Kilmer was hired, just to sort of adjust things to his particular style. And then ultimately we have Phillip Noyce directing, Australian director, most notable prior to this movie for Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger. Some action movie acumen there. Should I tell you who was in it, or should I regale you with a synopsis?
I think it might be good to tell us what this is all about, and then you can tell us about who's in it.
Master thief Simon Templar is hired to steal a microchip from Russian oil oligarch Ivan Tretiak. He dons a disguise and succeeds, but not before he is found by Ivan's cane-wielding son, Ilya. To get revenge, Ivan hires Simon to steal the formula for cold fusion from a brilliant, naive scientist named Dr. Emma Russell. He dons a disguise and succeeds, but not before he falls in love with Dr. Russell. Conflicted, he delivers the formula to Tretiak, but it turns out the formula is incomplete. Tretiak sends his goons to kill Simon and kidnap Dr. Russell, and Simon helps Dr. Russell escape to the US Embassy while he disappears into the crowd. Tretiak sells the incomplete cold fusion formula to the Russian government and then attempts to stage a coup, accusing the Russian president of squandering money on junk science in a public trial. His plan is foiled when the demonstration of the cold fusion machine actually works, because unbeknownst to him, Simon got the completed formula to Tretiak's scientists. Tretiak and his son are arrested, Dr. Russell presents her discovery to the world, and she and Simon start a secret relationship.
Well done! That's a tricky one to kind of summarize.
The plot goes kind of all over the place, which we will discuss.
So share with us, who is in this film?
I mentioned three names right off the bat. Playing Simon Templar, our master thief, we have Val Kilmer, American actor of some great fame. Prior to this, he had done Batman Forever. He had declined to return for another Batman movie, thus freeing himself up to do this one. And the list of movies that he has been in and was in prior to this one is extensive. I didn't want to go into too much about it, if that is okay. Playing Dr. Emma Russell, we have Elisabeth Shue, an Academy Award and BAFTA Award nominee for her role in Leaving Las Vegas in 1995. She's actually appeared in a film that we have looked at before, though she went uncredited. Apparently, she was a pregnant woman in City of Angels.
Then, a few years later, she would end up doing a film with Nick Cage, getting nominated for an Oscar. But anyway.
Continuing on, we have our villains. Ivan Tretiak is played by Croatian actor Rade Šerbedžija. I love him in practically everything that I have seen him in. He was in Mission Impossible 2. He was the doctor who injects himself with the Bellerophon virus, if I recall correctly. The most memorable performance that I recall was in Eyes Wide Shut. Have you seen that movie?
I have, many years ago.
Do you remember the costume shop owner who sells Tom Cruise the mask and the costume? Okay. He is the costume shop owner, and the reason I remember it, number one, delightful accent. I love his voice. And then number two, it is very heavily implied that he ends up whoring out his daughter in the film as a way of making money. I don't know why I remember that, but that's just one of those roles that kind of stuck with me and went, yeah, I'm not forgetting that no matter how much I try.
I guess that might be our Christmas option. A family film, apparently.
I didn't say that. Nor would I. Not about that one. Jeez.
He was absolutely fantastic. He was so clever and funny. He was just great.
And playing his son, Ilya, we have a Russian actor, director, and choreographer, Valery Nikolaev. He has done over 30 films, most of which I did not recognize because they are, well, Russian films.
You're not a Russian film aficionado?
No, I'm afraid not. British television series, yeah.
From the 60s.
I'm good. From the 60s, I'm good. Russian films, not so much. I've got a couple of sort of honorable mentions from the cast, because there are obviously far more people in it. Playing one of the Scotland Yard inspectors with the very pronounced eyebrows is Alan Armstrong. I've seen him in a couple of things. I think he's in The Mummy Returns. I know he's had a bit part in Sleepy Hollow. And he is a stage actor who originated the role of Thénardier in the London production of Les Miserables.
Ooh.
Which is kind of fun. And then playing Tretiak's sort of, I suppose, campaign manager, you might say, the older gentleman with a very distinguished face, that is Michael Byrne. You might remember him from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. He was Colonel Vogel, the main bad guy.
He did look really familiar, and that is absolutely where I know him from. Let's just say the beginning of this film is very odd. The film starts out in an orphanage, but even just the caption, it cuts to an orphanage.
Yes.
And underneath it says, the Far East. And I was like, what are you talking about? What Far East?
There's an awful lot of white kids in the Far East.
Eastern European, but everyone's speaking very clear English.
Yes.
If it said the Far East and everyone was speaking Romanian, I'm like, okay, that East. Got it.
You're right.
But it was like, no, all these kids, what is this? Where are we? I didn't understand that.
It's the Far East of England.
So that was weird. I'm just going to jump in. It starts at an orphanage, and we have our little boy who is clearly unhappy, calls himself Simon Templar. All the children have been given saint names because they're all little bastards, so says the priest. We're kind of giving you saint names to redeem your bastard selves. They're saying this to children, and it doesn't matter. You know why? Because towards the end of the child section of this movie, it's all about Simon and a little girl named Agnes.
Yes.
And you think, oh, that's cute, except for the part where he was like, kiss me, Agnes. And I'm like, how old are these children?
I was wondering the same thing.
All I need is a kiss. We're going to run away tonight. It's like, what? Go back to bed. I think I've outgrown this film. You know, the priest was right. But anyway, what I thought was funny was they start yelling, the girls are missing, the children are missing, and whatever. And a priest comes out with what looks like an attack dog.
2 of them.
Yes. And so our character Simon and Agnes there's a barrier between them and they're hanging off of the sides of it. And all of this causes Agnes to fall and then die.
Yes.
And I wrote, she died?
5 minutes in and we have our first death, and it's a teenage girl.
It's a preteen at best. And then, of course, they cut to his face, which is like, I am broken now.
This will haunt him forever. And then we get a very nice morph of his face into Val Kilmer's face. I liked that.
And then we cut to Moscow, where we start seeing what is going to be the common theme in this film, which is the character of Simon putting on disguises and changing his voice, changing his accent in a very, I have to say, exceptionally effective way.
I loved these scenes every time that they occurred, when he's looking in the mirror and he is introducing himself to himself over and over again. And much like we do, he does a take and goes, nope, that's no good, tries it again. And then we get like the bits of the disguise start appearing on his face every time he introduces himself, until eventually he has become the character. I think this happens, like 2 or 3 times?
Yes.
And every time I absolutely loved that.
It was really good. You would think that it would be cheesy, but the thing is, Val Kilmer's such a gifted actor that he does it really well. So it doesn't actually come off as cheesy. Now, they did push it a little bit a couple of times. But there was definitely like, oh, wow, he's just really good at accents. He's really good at his craft. It's almost like that Juilliard education got him something.
This opening heist I very much liked, but this opening heist is kind of false advertising, I feel, because we see him put on this disguise and then he goes off to steal the microchip. And we see him use a lot of very high-tech gadgets, safe cracking cameras, a thermal suit so that it will match the temperature of the room so he can walk through some sensors undetected, things of that nature. I loved that. But I want you to think now to the rest of the film. Do we ever see him use a gadget like those again in the rest of the film?
Nope.
No, we do not.
We do not.
I missed that the first time I watched this movie back in 1997. I did not pick up on that. I guess I didn't care. I was too entertained. Watching it again this time, I suddenly realized, wait, hang on. That first bit was really cool. How come we didn't get that again a bit later on? That would have been nice.
I loved the transitions. The end of that scene involves him running away from the bad guys and immediately switching costumes in an extremely creative way, multiple times over. Now, was it realistic? Meh. But man, was it fun. It was entertaining.
Not only are we introduced to Simon Templar and his kind of method of thievery, we're also introduced to our main villain, Ivan Tretiak, who is putting on a political rally, a political broadcast. And as you mentioned earlier, such a charismatic man.
I think that was the big difference between him and the character of his son, who had what I wrote down as cocaine watch.
Yes.
So watch that opens up and he can snort cocaine from it. It was great. The son, and this is not the actor's fault, he tried really hard. The son was written very two-dimensionally. He just seemed like a very stereotypical bad guy son.
Yeah, he's the physical thug. He does the chasing. I did like his cane and his business with the cane of twirling it. That was fun to watch, but you are correct. Compared to his father, a very two-dimensional character, I feel.
There was an exchange eventually after the whole microchip thing, and they decide to hire the Saint. And they have a meeting with him in a public place. And of course, he shows up in full costume saying he represents this person. I think he had a German accent for this one.
Yes,
and
he
it
did.
was just so good. There are moments in this film that are just really good. They're just really entertaining. I think at some point he just randomly walked over to another lady and then talked to her for a few minutes and then came back and he was like, "Your offer has inspired her." What I loved is that the villain loves him.
Yes.
One of my favorite lines after this scene where he says, "I really like this guy."
He says that like 2 or 3 times over the course of the movie, too. It's great.
Now, I have to talk a little bit about Dr. Emma Russell.
Oh, let us talk at length about Dr. Emma Russell.
Elisabeth Shue, brilliant actress who I have seen in so many things, countless things. She brought back between her and Val Kilmer. I was like, yeah, I remember being much younger watching these two. They make it a point to say that she has a heart condition and that she takes medicine for it.
Yep.
And so she gets breathless very easily.
One thing I would like to say right off the bat before we go into this discussion, my problem is not with Elisabeth Shue's portrayal. She did an absolutely fantastic job playing the character that was written. Any problems that I chat about here are with the character and how she was written, not with the actress.
Folks, in case you're wondering, we are on the train and we're about to make a stop at the problem zone.
Yes.
Because this is where I think the problems for this film begin. They hire him to steal the code fusion stuff that she's working on. He sneaks into her apartment and does his spy stuff, taking pictures of everything, figuring everything out. And then he realizes that clearly what she needs is a poet to fall in love with.
Mm-hmm.
Cut to her going to see this sculpture that she loves. And there he is with long hair, pretty much dressed as a poet in leather pants. And the accent that's when I say the accent is just too much. I think she asked him if he's an artist. And he says, no, just a traveler searching for purity. And I was like, oh, dear God. Are we serious right now? Oh, my God. He romances her with his poet-like being and then steals from her, but then he falls for her very quickly, and that affects him because he's not used to that because he's so closed off. This happens within 10 minutes of their knowing each other. Of course, they have a romantic evening together, and then he tries to back out of the deal. The Russian guy says, no problem, we'll just send my boys to take care of her. And then he's like, whoa, wait, okay, so now he has to steal in order to protect her. He steals from her, he vanishes. She ends up talking to, I don't know, Interpol,
Scotland Yard,
who was like, all these people are the same guy. And it takes her about 2 minutes to go, oh, he's using different names of Catholic saints. Can you give me a list of all the flights leaving? I can figure out where he went. Because apparently, aside from everything else that Dr. Emma Russell knows, she's well-versed in Catholic saints.
That scene I had issues with as well, because I believe the police inspectors say, we've been on his trail for 5, 10 years, some amount of years. And in all that time, they never noticed that the Catholic saints were being used as aliases. It took someone else just to come in and go, oh yeah, look at the names. Can you get me a manifest of everyone who flew from London to Moscow, and I'll see if I can figure it out.
Now, don't get me wrong. The chemistry between Val Kilmer and Elisabeth Shue, I thought was great. They have good chemistry.
No.
No?
No.
He counters. No.
No.
Oh, here comes the good content.
I don't know if this is good content. The dialogue...
Two blondes don't make a right?
I apologize, but the love dialogue between them...
Oh, it's awful.
...was horrible.
I wasn't saying the dialogue was good. No, I was saying that their personal chemistry seemed good.
Oh, okay.
The actors seem to have...
I see.
You watch certain films and you're like, wow, those people have no chemistry. I thought they did have chemistry.
Yeah, all right.
Or they were just so attractive that at least they had chemistry for me.
Now that you have explained a little, I can see it. That yes.
I was like David Attenborough, and here the two blondes are about to make love.
Val Kilmer and Elisabeth Shue have chemistry together, very natural together. The romance that they were attempting to portray is forced.
It's the weakest part of the film.
And it takes up like the middle third.
It does. There is good stuff at the beginning, I feel.
Yep.
There is good stuff, I think, towards the end.
I put it to you that anything that involves some action sequences is very good.
I 100% agree with you. Everything that is action in this film is great. I was actually like tense, even though, again, I kind of knew how this worked out. I was still like, oh, this is so good. Oh, this is so tense. Oh, this is so good. I loved it. I'm not a huge Mission Impossible guy. I watched some of them. I can't say I've watched all of them. And if I have, I don't remember because they've started to blend into each other. For me, everyone else, if you love your Mission Impossibles, that's great. He's going to continue to make more until he dies.
Or until he runs out of things to jump off of.
I liked the action style of this film, for me, even a little bit more sometimes than some of the Mission Impossibles that I've seen. I just liked it. I thought it was really neat. There's still way a bunch of problems in here.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I despised when it comes to the plot of this film, she sure does forgive him real fast.
Doesn't she, though?
Her life's work. He steals it and gives it to the Russians. She, of course, figures out who he is and where he is, shows up at like a hotel, and it's almost like a peekaboo moment. He's like, peekaboo, I found you.
Yep.
And he goes, oh, you found me. And I'm just like, okay, everyone's way too calm about this. And then she's like, yeah. And then like, how dare you? It very quickly seems to be okay that he stole her life's work, and they get along, and there's no real anger.
I would be curious to go back in time to see how long it takes between her showing up at the hotel going, you stole, you dirty, rotten scoundrel, to her stripping down to share body warmth after he's fallen in the river.
I mean, but that was a hypothermia situation. Definitely not an excuse for everyone to take off their clothes.
Precisely. I've got one from round about this part of the movie where he has fallen in the river, she has dragged him out, and they stumble into this apartment building, and they are helped by this Russian woman who shows up, and she says to her, ran into trouble with your mafia. Would you say that to someone?
I don't know. My other favorite lines, she goes, who are you? And he says, no one has a clue, least of all me. And I was just like, Like, it's just the wrong moment, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, if they were in the truck and they were handcuffed, like they were like a few minutes later,
Yes.
and she's frustrated, and she's just like, who are you? And then he said, no one has a clue, least of all me. But this was said so casually, like over coffee.
Yes.
This movie's very good at creating action sequences, and it's very, very bad at creating dialogue sequences, except for the funny bits. With our villain, funny. With Elisabeth Shue, not funny.
Any romantic dialogue just kind of falls flat.
Did you think that at some point she was going to like pass out and they were going to make a big deal about the heart thing? Because they really work it into the story, but they never really do anything with it.
I think it's twice we see her panic and have to take some pills. He dives into the river to save the pill bottle that is floating downstream. That was the whole impetus for that. And then when she gets to the U.S. Embassy, there's some diplomat there working with her who says, oh, are there any medical conditions we should know about? And she responds, well, I've got a heart condition, but it hasn't acted up in quite a while at this point. It's like, oh, we set up this plot device and now we're just going to not use it anymore. All right.
And when she sprinted, her heart was fine. She had a great scene sprinting towards the American embassy with the bad guy chasing her. That one was great.
Grabs the coat and she throws off the coat so that she can't catch him and then gets through the gates. Oh. What did you think of the ending? In particular, the villain's comeuppance, such as it is, and where we find the relationship between Dr. Emma and Simon.
Weird. Like, it was a big dramatic reveal, which I thought was a lot. I was like, okay, I'll buy it. I'll buy it. This is good. But then I don't know where he is. Everything's fine. Bye. And then she goes to a random cabin nearby, clearly. And there he is, hanging out. I don't know what to think about it because it made it almost seem like she was going to leave, but then she wasn't. And it just ended oddly because he wakes up by himself, remember? And you're like, oh, she did a switcheroo.
She left him. Oh, okay.
She left him.
Yeah.
Ha, ha, ha. I get it now. No, never mind. That was a red herring. That they just have busy schedules. I don't know. It was odd. It didn't really tell us anything. Other than him going, I'm weird, and her going, I know. And then it was like, okay, now I'm going to go tell everyone about Code Fusion. I'm like, are we still doing that?
It was demonstrated on live TV. It's not the big reveal you think it is.
And then, of course, he appears in a costume, which was fun, and then he runs off, which was also fun. Yeah. But it was like, okay, I guess this is where we end it.
Here is the ending as it was originally written. And I'm afraid I couldn't find exactly why they decided to change it from this. So, Dr. Russell ends up at the U.S. Embassy. Simon disappears into the crowd in Russia. Dr. Russell returns to England, where she goes to give a speech to present her findings to the world, and she drops dead on stage.
Good God.
It is revealed via reviewing security tape footage that the son, Ilya, bumped into her and poked her leg with his cane, thereby poisoning her so that she would be removed from the picture. Simon then returns to Russia and goes through the whole thing with the president where he says, Tretiak's going to drag you out, put you on public display, just agree with everything he's accusing you of because behind the scenes, I've sorted all this out. The switcheroo occurs, but rather than being arrested and dragged off never to be seen again, the Tretiaks fight their way back to their mansion. Simon and the Russian army give chase, and it ends with a fiery inferno because it is mentioned very briefly in the news broadcast that they've been hoarding oil reserves underneath their mansion in storage tanks. Those oil reserves get set on fire by the Russian army who are firing large shells into the side of the mansion as Simon is battling with the sun. During this big conflagration, the two of them end up hanging off of the chandelier, and eventually Ilya gets shoved off and falls to his death and Simon escapes. And then he goes back to England and finds a letter from Dr. Russell. Then he heads off into the sunset to the next movie in the series whenever it happens to come out.
I have 2 thoughts on this. 3 thoughts.
Ooh, I like this.
Number 1, nobody wants to see Elisabeth Shue die. She's a treasure. Nobody wanted to see her die in any movie ever. 2, That ending makes sense as far as a series, because if he is entangled with Dr. Russell, then we can't have the Saint going off and going on wild adventures or whatever and coming back to his breathless doctor. 3, why? I'm going to guess, and I could be wrong, that either the studio or test audiences did not like it and they reworked it, because they clearly filmed all of it and then they went back and re-edited and then added a couple of scenes.
If you go and watch the trailer for The Saint on, YouTube or some other site, you will see a lot of fiery flashes that occur, and those are all from the cut end fight scene.
Yeah, because I guess you're right. For an action movie, it definitely doesn't end like an action movie.
No.
And it's been building, and it's been going really fast. And so all of a sudden it's like, nope. Because the love story once again screwed us over. What did you think years later overall?
Overall, I loved the action sequences. I just did not enjoy the middle section where it was supposed to be I shall seduce her with my bizarre accent and weird artist behavior.
But in the end, she seduces his heart breathlessly.
Except she's no longer breathless, because apparently that plot point we don't need anymore.
So not perfect.
No. But I still enjoyed the ride overall. Those action sequences, loved it.
I wasn't sure when I started the film if I was going to enjoy it. I was like, is this movie any good? Because I don't remember much about it. Is this any good, or is this going to be one of those, we got through it, we'll talk about it for an hour, and then we'll move on with our lives? I finished it, and I was like, that was fun. So that would be my recommendation. If you're looking for kind of a fun action movie that you haven't seen, and you want to get some Val Kilmer and Elizabeth Shue in your life, you'd get a good dose of that with this. I think it's a fun movie. It's not perfect. It has a couple of cringy moments, especially in the middle.
Yeah.
But the beginning's good. Most of the end bit is good. It's not bad.
I was reading a couple of comments on a site somewhere, and one person commented that, oh yeah, this is a movie that you can just put on and have going. And if you happen to fall asleep for 10 minutes or so in the middle, you can wake up and pick exactly where you are, and you don't really miss anything.
Totally accurate.
That is what we thought. What did audiences at the time think? Well, audience at the time kind of liked it, because it was number 2 its opening weekend, behind Liar Liar and just above Anaconda. It had a budget of $90 million and ultimately grossed $169.4 million, which sounds good, but I don't remember if I said this in an earlier episode, but I read an article somewhere stating that 2.5 times the budget is kind of like your sweet spot. If you can get 2.5 times your budget, you have made money and you've done well. Anything less than that is not so good. So 169.4, although greater than 90 million, meant that it barely broke even once you factored in all of the advertising and the promotional.
Yeah, it needs to be doubling up.
So financially, not great. The reviews were mixed. Some people liked it. Edward Guthman, writing for the San Francisco Chronicle, said Kilmer dons 12 disguises, polishes them with impeccable accents and pliable postures, and gives a performance that's far and away the best aspect of the diverting The Saint. And he compared his performance to that of Eddie Murphy in The Nutty Professor. Gene Siskel did not like that at all, stating, I think the disguises are a big mistake. I think it becomes The Nutty Saint. So we've got one critic praising its likeness to The Nutty Professor in terms of disguises, and one going, oh my God, please no. Siskel also agreed with us. He greatly disliked Dr. Russell's character.
It's not her fault. It was written poorly.
Mixed reviews by the critics, not a stellar performance at the box office, ultimately meant no franchise. So although that was the intent, The Saint would not return. Though there is a new Saint reboot in the works, but I don't have any solid details.
I mentioned to our former guest, Raven Adams, that we were going to be doing The Saint. And Raven is a huge Val Kilmer fan. She pulled up Val Kilmer's autobiography, and she read me a section about the Saint. At the beginning of the chapter, he says, look, this was my version of what Tom Cruise would do, what Matt Damon would eventually do with Jason Bourne. And he even acknowledges, he said, they did it better. They did it way better than I did. This was my attempt at it, and I thought this was going to lead to somewhere. And it didn't. It did. It led to one very kind of interesting film.
Personally, I think Val Kilmer's being a little hard on himself. I thought he did an absolutely excellent job in this movie. The very end of the movie contains a couple of nods back to the TV series. First, there is a pin that I think Simon is presented with. Dr. Russell gives it to him, which is the iconic Saint logo. Secondly, as Simon is driving off into the sunset pursued by the police, he turns on the radio, and there is a news announcement about how, billions of dollars have been donated to various charities out of Tretiak's old bank accounts. The voice on the radio that informs you of all this belongs to Roger Moore. They brought him in to do that as a hat tip to the 60s series. So with that, I think that wraps up our discussion of The Saint, unless there is anything you wish to throw in that I have missed.
I don't think I have anything else. You can watch this by renting it on Amazon for a couple of dollars.
If you happen to have a Paramount Plus subscription, because this was put out by Paramount, it is available there as part of your subscription fee.
There you go. So I recommend you check it out because it's kind of fun.
Yes.
And again, you can get angry at parts of it like we did and still enjoy it. Notice we're not saying we did not enjoy it. Our critiques are valid. The movie is still fun.
Yes. So, sir, with that wrapped up, I pass the baton back to you. What is it we are going to be covering in our next episode?
In honor of Raven, we are going to do a second Val Kilmer film. We are going to rewind the clock just a little bit to 1988 and see Willow.
Oh, excellent choice.
Thank you so much for watching or listening. Please like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you thought about this movie. Do you have a history with The Saint? What do you remember about watching it? If you have any ideas for other films that you would like us to do, please let us know. Join us next time for Willow.
Sit back, it's time to get groovy. Question, do you remember that movie?